What is the creepiest / most disturbing mystery ever? Story 1. He was 18 years old when he went missing in 2000. He was working his shift at a local Walmart and afterward wanted to look at a new car with a colleague when he allegedly received a call that made him take off frantically. After that, he was never seen again. The strangest thing is that a few days later, his car was found in a parking lot with the headlights turned on, a pair of lips and an exclamation mark drawn on the back window in pink lipstick, and a live Labrador puppy sitting inside. In 2017, the colleague was arrested for his murder, but all the strange details still make no sense at all. Story 2. The disappearance of Lars Middank. A German man went on vacation in Bulgaria in 2014. He was last seen at the airport, where he was brought into a private room by airport security after his mother had called telling them her son was behaving strangely, saying there were people after him over the phone the night before. A few minutes later, he's seen bolting, and I mean full sprinting out of the room without his luggage. He ran out of the airport, scaled the huge fences around the perimeter, and was never seen again. Hundreds of witnesses, CCTV footage, and a police presence, and the man still basically disappeared off the face of the earth in broad daylight. Story 3. A lesser-known one that sticks with me is Selena Mays. 12 years old and 9 months pregnant, she disappears from her room overnight. She didn't bring any belongings with her, and neither she nor the baby had ever been found. Her dad and his family were involved with a shady church, but there's no proof they knew what happened to her. The apparent theory is that her baby's father killed her and hid the body to avoid statutory rape charges. But nobody knows, or will admit to knowing anyhow, who he was. Story 4. As a diver, the disappearance of Ben McDaniels is super interesting. They say he went into a cave and never came out, but some of the world's top cave divers looked for him and never found a body. The only evidence he went diving was staged gas bottles filled with regular air, not any mixture or anything. The owner of Vortex Springs, where Ben went missing, also died mysteriously the year after. Story 5. The murder of Lindsay Busick is a cause close to home that I don't see mentioned as much as it should. A relatively junior in Victoria, British Columbia, is showing a luxury home to some clients, and the clients murdered her. The clients, a man and a woman, cold called her saying they needed to find something to buy ASAP. She was apprehensive about showing the property by herself and asked that her boyfriend come or wait outside. It turns out the boyfriend was running late and arrived as the murder had just occurred. Still, I don't believe he saw anything as the suspects fled through the back door. It's thought that she was the victim of a professional hit for some unknown reason. Also, the cell phone that was used to contact her was purchased by someone with an alias in Vancouver 6 or so months prior and was only ever used to get here. Story 6. Jessica Chambers. She was set on fire in her car and had gasoline poured down her throat. Paramedics found her walking down the lane on fire. The only part of her body that wasn't burned was the bottom of her feet. She didn't survive. Police found a suspect but did not have enough evidence to charge him. Paramedics were traumatized by what they saw. They had to go through therapy and broke down on stage during interviews. She tried to name her attacker, but her throat was so destroyed she couldn't be understood. Story 7. The murder of Robert Wone is something I think about often. He was staying the night with friends, and what happened to him sounded brutal. But even more disturbing is that everyone in that house that evening seemingly has a pact of silence and walks around free as a bird. Story 8. Missy Bevers. A suspect in full SWAT armor breaks into a church, smashes windows, and breaks open doors with a hammer looking for a local fitness instructor. They then find and beat her to death before getting away. There's a high-quality surveillance video of both of them in their car, but investigators couldn't identify the license plate. A suspect was cleared because of an alibi, and there have been no recent updates. Story 9. Timothy Pitson. A kid taken from school by his mother went to a zoo, a water park, and all those fun places a kid would love, and then went missing after his mother killed herself in response to her rocky marriage. She left a suicide note saying sorry and that Timothy would be safe, but he was never found. Pretty sad considering that the father still believes he's out there, but I'm betting he's dead. I live close to where it happened too, but not when it initially happened. Story 10. The city of San Francisco train derailment occurred in Hardin, Nevada on August 12, 1939. The train, run by the Southern Pacific Railroad at the time, derailed at a bridge over the Humboldt River at a speed range of 60 to 90 miles per hour. The accident resulted in 24 fatalities and multiple injuries. Days later, investigators discovered tools at the bottom of the Humboldt River, determining that the wreck was caused by sabotage of the rails. Story 11. When I was 14, I lived in a very rural area. The neighborhood kids were all friends and used to do some effed up things. For example, they tried to derail a train. They also used to put debris and other stuff in the middle of the highway to try and cause accidents. One time, a couple hit a tree branch they had placed in the road. When the couple stopped, the kids threw rocks at them. Rural kids with dysfunctional family lives. Story 12. In 1969, a student was killed in the library stacks at my old college, Penn State, and found with a singular stab wound on her chest. It wasn't even late, and while there were many suspects, no one was ever arrested. It's insane how someone could kill someone in broad daylight at a significant university and get away with it. It's not super crazy. In comparison to other stories here, it's just weird to me because I would always study there and didn't find out about it until after graduating. Story 13. In the early 80s, all within 18 months of each other, 3 paperboys in the Des Moines, Iowa area all went missing during their morning route. The cases have never been solved. Instead, there are theories ranging from a pedophilia ring, an ex-employee who is a creeper kidnapping them, and even a lone wolf type situation. It's a bizarre case that has baffled Iowa for years. Story 14. Late on the night of December 30th, 2000 in Setagaya, Tokyo, a man broke into the house of a family of 4, strangled the son in his bed, stabbed the father, and brutally killed the mother and daughter. The killer then spent hours in the house eating their food, using their toilet, and going through their paperwork like he owned the place, and eventually left, never to be found since. Story 15. My great-grandma got on a train in her town in North Carolina to go up a few towns to go shopping. I think it was in the 1920s. Never came back. The family had no clue what had happened. The husband wasn't abusive or negligent, and the kids were good so far. So they just assumed she started a new life, despite not taking anything with her, and left her to it after a reasonable period trying to find her with what passed for detective work at the time. Serial killers have always been around. It's just significantly harder to operate nowadays. Story 16. The death of Rebecca Zahu has stuck with me. Zahu's nude body was found hanging from a balcony with her wrists and ankles bound and hands behind her back. Her death was ruled a suicide. As if that wasn't strange enough, 2 days before her end, the 6-year-old son of her boyfriend fell down a staircase and died. His death was ruled an accident. There's a lot to read about this case, and I highly recommend it if you're into true crime. Story 17. The case of Adam immediately came to mind. An unidentified male child whose torso was discovered in the River Thames in London, United Kingdom, on September 21, 2001. Dubbed Adam by police officers, the unidentified remains belong to a black male around 4 to 8 years old, wearing orange girl shorts. The postmortem showed that Adam had been poisoned. His throat had been slit to drain the blood from his body, and his head and limbs had been expertly removed. Investigators believe the child was likely from southwestern Nigeria and that several days before his murder, he was trafficked to the United Kingdom for a multi-ritual sacrifice. To date, nobody's been charged with Adam's murder, and his true identity remains unknown. Story 18. The Cleveland Torso Murderer. From 1935 to 1938, a serial killer chopped off the heads and appendages of 12 to 20 people and left their torsos for people to find. The famous detective Elliot Ness was on the case, and the killer taunted him by leaving 2 torsos within full view of his office. The killer was never identified, nor were the majority of the victims.